Hey everyone, it's your boy Crypto Magnet. Today we have a very special guest. Before we get into it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and join us on a journey to 10,000 subscribers. Again, none of this is financial advice, it's just our personal opinion. And I hope everyone's having a great ending to 2021. We wanted to switch things up by bringing on a guest today, a person that's in my BNI group, 5+ year crypto investor. So you guys just give me one moment and I'll give you guys a little rundown of what we're going to go through today as many people are coming across cryptos and wanted to jump into this space. The next step to jump into this space is understanding basically how to get in. And so, as many people are jumping in the 2020s, 2021, and 2022, I came across Laura Benjamin. She, again, is a crypto investor, and she has been in crypto since 2013. And for some of you, you guys weren't even born. So let's go through who Laura Benjamin is. Laura Benjamin has worked in websites, branding, and marketing for 20+ years with businesses ranging from startups and regional change makers to multi-million-dollar global brands. Laura understands that what drives engagement in sales is a deep understanding of your audience. And finally, crafted approach to connect with customers on deep levels of identity, message, and experience. Laura, again, is a 5+ year crypto investor and a woman with many hats. So let's bring Laura on and we can talk of some cryptos today for you guys. How's your day going so far, Laura?
It's pretty good. How are you, Denarius?
Blessed. That's what I like to say as myself. Welcome to the Crypto Magnet Show. Tell people who you are, what you stand for, and we'll just go into our conversation.
Sure. I'm a small business owner. Started my first company in 2010 after about 7-8 years doing marketing and design work. And I've been doing that for about the last 11 years. Somewhere along the way, I found my way into crypto. It was actually around 2011, 2012. I had a job as a marketing director and just would turn on a little mining app in the background for Bitcoin because it was this new and weird thing. And I love emerging technologies. I love to see what people are trying and doing out in the world. Unfortunately, I didn't keep that wallet. Otherwise, it'd be a different story. But man, I look back at that time and think it would have been really great to just do one website project doing a Bitcoin transaction. Here we are. I got in mostly in 2017, which was still a great time to get invested.
I love that. I love that. And with you jumping into this emerging market and trying to wrap your head around it, what were some of the hiccups that you came across jumping into the industry back in 2017 compared to what many people are going through today?
Gosh, it's hard for me to even remember the day that I just sat down and said, there's something happening here and I need to get involved. It was around the time that it took that quick jump from around 1,000 per Bitcoin up to about 3,500. And that's where I was like, it's time to put some money into this. And I luckily had recently, in 2015, 2016, started to get into the whole FIRE, financial independence, retire early community. I don't want to be working forever, and I want to make sure that I've got a good foundation to grow on. And I looked at crypto and Bitcoin in particular and said, oh gosh, this looks like a real emerging market. There's something happening here where people are starting to look at a digital currency and what can be done with that. At worst, what happens is I throw a bunch of thousands of dollars at this thing and it goes away. Luckily, I had a big enough cushion that I could feel okay making that jump. And so I started putting some money in. And then after that sort of big burst up to about 10,000, that's when I just started dollar cost averaging in. So, we watched the needle go up to 20 and in 2017, 2018, and then crash back down. And man, I wish I had bought the crash in was it last year, 2 years ago, when we hit 3,000 again. And I looked at that and I said, it's time to buy some more. And I managed to get a little bit more around 10 to 12, but man, getting a 3 would have been just so stellar. Anyway, and so here we are, just dollar cost average into that. Most of my holdings tend to be in Bitcoin, Ethereum. I've got some ADA, and I've got some smaller ones. I'm really interested in what's happening with the token space and sort of the layers on Ethereum. So that's really been my interest and something that I'm not necessarily saying like let's put all my eggs in this one basket and try to get rich, but it's something that certainly has enabled a lot of growth in my portfolio, and it's just a new way to think about how money and value is stored.
I love that. And so as you're jumping into these emerging markets and having a very, in my opinion, a very diversified approach towards cryptocurrency. Are you looking? What excites you with this industry? Is it the technology? Is it the meme coins, the silly names? Because obviously there's a lot of things in the crypto space that just doesn't make sense. So to you, what makes sense to this emerging market and how it actually integrates into our real life society?
Yeah, so I've never really jumped on the meme coin. I wish I had jumped on Dogecoin in particular and Shiba, but I didn't get in. I didn't feel like I got in early enough. I'm still thinking about putting a small amount towards those things because, again, if something pops off and you've got $500, $1,000 in it, it's always nice to see that thing jump up 3 to 10x. But as far as like where I think things are going, I mean, I love listening to Michael Saylor and some of these like sort of forward-thinking people talk about Bitcoin in particular and the crypto space. It's assets that, with Bitcoin and Ethereum in particular, that are yours in a way that regular money can't be. It's something that if you have your own wallet and you have your seed phrase memorized, no one can get access to that without your direct involvement. The government can't seize it. There's no way to come in and steal that asset unless someone manages to get your seed phrase or your passcodes. And that is just a different way of thinking about property and ownership. And I feel like we're sort of taking what's happening in finance right now, and we're sort of at that 1997 internet level where it hadn't quite displaced how people communicated. It hadn't replaced like regular phones. It hadn't replaced the newspapers. It hadn't replaced magazines. But gosh, within 5-10 years, all that stuff moved online. All that stuff became democratized. This is democratized money on a global scale. And it just is so exciting to me that not only can we be sort of early investors in that space, but also there are potentially layers of technology and sort of this new version of the internet that can be transacted using the sort of the tokens and the other things that are coming out from this technology. It's just, that's what excites me about it.
And I want to piggyback off you as well, because if people can really wrap their heads around tokenomics in a cryptocurrency space where, let's say we didn't get to invest in the internet. If you were to have a chance to invest in what the internet was going to offer, this is basically what that is. These different type of blockchains that a lot of different applications and projects are being built off. So yeah, the piggyback off what you're saying, this is a time where literally we have a chance to invest into the blockchain, aka the internet of what is to come and what will be built off that. So, if we would have, and that was like Web 2.0, and now they're launching Web 3.0, which is again going to change the industry of how we actually interact and communicate with each other. Because with Web 2.0, what was based off that and created off that internet is what we're talking on: YouTube, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the many other different social sites to connect human connectivity. And one thing I've learned and loved about this emerging market of blockchains and metaverses is the way you're going to be able to interact and network in a very seamless 3D, physical, metaphysical world where you throw on one of these headsets and you jump into the metaverse and you're able to network and talk to people. Yesterday, I jumped into the metaverse, just went to the lobby of one of the metaverses in the world, and I recorded myself just talking to people, meeting people. Hey, I'm from Minnesota. Where are you guys from? And they're in their avatars that physically look like them. I'm in my avatar that physically looks like me. And, we're not only talking in a metaverse. I say, hey, what's your Instagram? What's your Facebook? Let's meet in the real world as well. If you're local, if you're on those social sites, just like, again, this is another form of a social site. And so it was such a cool like lobby where you can walk around with people in the metaverse, go to different worlds together, build friendships and relationships, and then transfer those metaverse relationships into real life relationships. That's one thing I like, because whether I was in Minnesota or that person was across the world, we were in the same physical metaverse world together where we were able to see each other interact and again do business and talk. So I understand everything you're saying as I am putting the headsets on and saying how I can talk to someone that literally is not even in the US, but physically see them, interact with them, shake their hand in a virtual world, and then physically take all that energy and networking into the real world that we live in. So we see a lot of movies, The Matrix, Total Recall, the future. Once we put the headset on, we're linked in, and there's a lot of fear behind this. And so what would you say to those who are fearful of this change of this new industry where, obviously in 2021 and 2020, we had to go to Zoom. We had to go through we had to take away society's approach of actually how society approaches talking. And now that we're in this meta world, these Zooms and all these are virtual, there's a lot of fear behind it. What would you say to those who are fearful of what excites us, and fearful to others?
I think it's natural to just have sort of that trepidation when these new emerging technologies come out. And I think we see that a lot, especially in crypto investors right now, where people will buy in. They expect it to moonshot within a couple of days to a week. They see it. I did the same thing when I was an early investor. Like I bought Facebook when it was IPO'd. It dropped really fast. I freaked out and went, oh no, do I hang on to this? And luckily I saved a little bit of it, but I did also sort of hedge my bets. And unfortunately I didn't, I could have had a much bigger return on that than I actually did. But I think it's about staying curious. And I think it's about understanding that these technologies, it's learning how to adapt them into your life and not necessarily push against them. I think that things like the metaverse, I'm still learning about that one. So I'm excited to sort of explore that space in the coming year or two. But all of what's happening with technology, with decentralized currencies, with the metaverse, this is natural evolutions of our technology. And I think part of it is just learning to adapt to this new space. And again, taking that curious approach to these technologies, not being afraid to just give it a try, have that moment of being I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but we'll see. And realizing that sometimes that can pay off really big. Again, when I made my big investment in Bitcoin in 2017, yes, I had some early Bitcoin and didn't save it, but looked at the range of what had happened in that 7-year time and said, maybe it's something that is worth investigating and trying out a little bit. And before I knew it, I was following big crypto blogs and creators on YouTube and all of these different things that helped me learn more about what was going on in the world. And I think this is just the next extension of that Web 3.0, the metaverse. Keeping up with some of this stuff doesn't require a lot of time, and you can just sort of investigate it as it comes out, and not necessarily the worst thing you can do is just shut down and be afraid of it, because technologies now are not the technologies of the 90s or not the technologies of the 60s. All this stuff keeps changing, and that's okay. We're going to find new ways to communicate and interact with each other.
I love that. And I honestly agree, because with technology and how humanity advances, we have to also, get out of our comfort zone for what keeps us in that discomfort. And so I agree with you completely, where I see a lot of people on my Facebook and across the world, now it's a very politicalness where all these memes and cartoons are coming out where, people are strapped into the headset, and now they're getting fed tube water and, processed food. And it really takes a very fear-mongering approach toward how society can advance, but also not, diminish how society is ran, which is obviously human to human contact rather than putting these headsets on it. I'm just so excited because I've seen the benefits of what happened in the past and missing out, literally. 10 years ago, if I were to jump into Bitcoin when it was introduced to me when I was 18 years old, I tell people, you would never met me.
Sam.
You would have never met me. And so when I look at what the opportunity cost, really cost me in my life and my generational, I said, me and my business partner, he came to me at the beginning of this year. He said, I was there, because he's a couple of years older than me. He said, I was there for the Facebook, the MySpace, for the Yahoo, but I didn't enact, I didn't jump. I was so stuck in getting the grades and getting to college and making my life work, where things behind the scenes was working. I don't want to miss out on those opportunities. And if this is that opportunity, such as the internet boom of the 1990s, now in the 2020s of the next stage of technology and how humans interact, we want to be on that conversation for the next 10 plus years. And so for our organization, Optimum Outreach, we completely switched our narrative, and we went full force. putting at least 85 to 90% of our income that we make from our business directly into different cryptocurrency spaces.
You know, I think for me, I had a very similar experience, and I didn't have the wherewithal or the sort of patience, I guess, or really even the money to invest at that point. But what I didn't realize either is that it's not like you need to take your life savings and dump it into crypto. It's more like it doesn't take a lot to get informed. I think that, watching some of the less hypey YouTubers that aren't necessarily out there like saying, we're going to go to $1 million next year, that's a little bit, I think, too moonish. But in terms of like understanding like what you're buying and how it could grow and what the future of these technologies hold, and putting it just as part of your portfolio. You don't need to take, again, you and I think I have a different mentality with this stuff where, yes, I'm the same way, where I save something between 50 and 70% of my income because I want to be done working in 5 years, or at the very least have that continued ability to kind of be very choosy about the work I do and what, follow my passions. But for, I think, the average investor who's just getting started, I mean, you don't need to take thousands and thousands of dollars and go buy Bitcoin and take a chance on what the new hot meme token is. You can say, well, this month I've got $500 to invest. I'm going to put, $100 in my Roth. I'm going to put $100 into Bitcoin. I'm going to put $100 in Ethereum, and I've got $200 to kind of spread around to these other things. And that can be a really great strategy to kind of think through, like, how do I diversify across these different things, especially right now with Bitcoin, because we don't know what the future holds, but year on year, it certainly has shown a track record of having a high rate of return versus basically any other option out there.
Correct. And it's historically the fastest growing asset in the history of anything called an asset, because it's just the technology behind it. We now have countries integrated into their system as forms of payment, such as El Salvador. And it's definitely something that I have had to wrap my head around, but seeing the power of it and how it actually is very transactional is why people are really excited for other cryptos, because people are looking for forms of payment where there's not an inflation towards it. And a lot of these different altcoins and cryptocurrencies, they're deflationary tokens, which is always very exciting to say that the value that I hold is going to hold its value. And it's just depending upon, obviously, the paper hands. But when you build a real big ecosystem that's sustainable, I see a society literally changing. And it's because I'm so excited. So I'll just give an example of a couple of cryptos where and none of these are sponsored, literally just me knowing that they're tokenomics. But one of them is Elongate. Elongate is a cryptocurrency where they have a tax that gets back to charities, and they've given out $3.4 million to different charities as a part of their ecosystem.
That's amazing.
And so I like to be a part of something like that, where the value of my cryptocurrency is rising in value, but also a tax between the buys and sells are given back to charities. Again, it makes it a social impact where throughout the natural transactions of Apple stocks, they have a percentage that goes back to charities, but we don't know. It's not built into the buys and sells of their ecosystem. They just do philanthropy stuff throughout whatever they make. But if it's built into the ecosystem of the buys and sells of whatever project that is, whether day trading, I love to see the real life impact that it does for our environment. And so.
I so appreciate the work that you do to do the research and some of the diligence on these tokens, because that kind of approach is important. And not a lot of people have the time to go out and look at every single coin that's out there. And yes, with a lot of DeFi, you have to watch out for rug pulls. Who owns the majority of those coins? Are they going to just wait till they get some early investors and then dump their load onto the market, and then suddenly everything goes to zero and your coin is worthless? But when you have these trustworthy developers that have these kind of high-minded projects that are working towards something in the future, or like some of the integrated gaming tokens, that's what I've been reading a lot about this week, has been like, I'm trying to remember, like Sandbox. God, I wish I'd have bought Sandbox a couple of years ago when I first heard about it, because that's another one that just like took off and people are building a ton of stuff on that infrastructure. And wow, that's the kind of thing where, yes, Don't pick a project just because like you like the fancy name or whatever. Do some diligence, understand what the mission of the developers are, see if they've got a track record of trustworthy projects and they're not just sort of trying to rug pull the market and cost everyone their investments. But then these great things can happen. That's what it's all about.
And I agree with you. And it's how it's going to advance our comprehension of technology and how we really can build a community that's for everyone. And so when many of these cryptocurrencies are community driven currencies, they're community owned. I really love the concept behind it, because when we talk about, in the world of politics, when we really talk about the community, you must not only be there for the community, but there'll also be an option for the community. So decentralized finance, where a community-driven currency, aka a cryptocurrency, is given to the people to interact throughout the city, such as there's one that is the Nevada coin. The Nevada coin will be obviously one of the cryptocurrencies of Las Vegas, of Nevada. And how people can interact and use that in the system is they can obviously go to the casinos, restaurants, they can pay parking. And when you're a part of the Nevada coin, you also get privileged parking in certain spots because you're a part of the ecosystem. So it gives people incentives to want to be a part of it, because no one wants to pay for parking. And if you were a part of an ecosystem such as Nevada coin or different type of whatever cryptocurrency that is, and they have like that type of benefit and incentives, it makes you want to, not drive, and makes you want to be a part of certain, avenues of privilege, because in society, people want to feel special about themselves. That's why we have these different VIP specials and stuff like that, but not in the sense of isolation, but an inclusivity where we don't want people to drive. And if let's say they come out with a bike coin. Those who are part of this bike community that have this cryptocurrency, you guys can park your bikes here at no cost, and you get rewarded by buys and sells throughout the transaction, and et cetera, et cetera. The more times you don't drive your car, the more you're rewarded. It helps us dilute, stop pollution of the CO2 in their areas. I see it being the people can be really creative of ways that can incentivize to get people a part of their ecosystem, but how that ecosystem can help eliminate some of the stresses that we're putting on our earth. Pollution. There's the aqua goat cryptocurrency, which crazy name.
That one.
But what they do is they help depollute the oceans, and so it's an ecosystem buys and sells, and it's just, so I see it like, I would love for us to stop polluting the oceans and taking all the plastics out. And if there's a buys and sells throughout this ecosystem, that taxes are given back to organizations that are out there, physically on the ground level, clearing and cleaning the water for our future generations. It makes sense. And so I would love, instead of someone having to do a nonprofit and no one actually donating to that nonprofit, there's taxes of an ecosystem, buys and sells that naturally happen. The percentages are given back, throughout every transaction. I just see the bigger picture of it actually helping our environment, declutter, the list goes on and on. Green Era is a recent one that they're looking to deplete the CO2 that's given off through all the mining rigs that are out there, because it's very, very harmful to our environment. Given to why
What about helium, building the people's network? I mean, there are people out there creating Wi-Fi hotspots that give you the benefit of having used, extra Wi-Fi that you have available, so that you can have some earnings off of that transaction. Someone else gets some benefit, you get some benefit, and the world, like, it is democracy in a whole new way.
Yes, and that's one thing I'm excited about, because yes, helium is a great one where I'm using my hotspot. I'm giving up the extra unlimited data that I have, that regardless if I use it, it's still going to be there, that I can make some passive income off. It makes sense. Even my computer browser, which I have to do a video on, I have the Brave computer browser, where I'm getting passive income from all the different ads that are blocked because of their blocking, their ad blocker that they have a part of this. So if I go to my little tab, so far today, let's see, let's just look at the rewards, because it's really unique. So far this month, I've made $1.88 of just passive income from all the different ad blockers that have popped up for all the ways I would have been annoyed naturally that I didn't have to click out.
And you save time. So you save time and made $1.88.
And now I'm making passive income. It just makes sense, and it says ads received this month that were blocked, 244. That would have been a lot of clicks of me like, all right, this is annoying. Why did this site pop up? Ad blocker. but now I have a natural system that's doing it for me. And but when it's doing it for me, I'm also earning passive income of a cryptocurrency, and then I'm able to convert that into Ethereum and all the different things that come with this wallet that is attached to this browser. So I like the incentives, a lot of ways that this ecosystem will help us thrive and survive. And one thing I'm excited for, in the world of cryptocurrency space, is really helping the everyday average user understand decentralized finance, where they can really take control of their financial future by understanding these different things around staking their cryptocurrency, farming. Again, to the normal user, this like, what do you mean farming? I don't know how to sow. No, we're talking about putting your passive income into a staking farm or a pool, where you're getting high APYs because of people putting it into either liquidity pools or matching it between other liquidity pools. Where again, I can go on and on, but the excitement is where the everyday average user can take control of their financial future, where they have more control of what their future looks like.
Yeah, I'm not to get too in the weeds on it, but I do love proof of stake. I love that my ADA and my Polkadot make passive, like small amounts. We're not talking about millions of dollars here, but it's nice to see a couple of bucks every few days flow into my account, and then I, yes, it's a return on my investment that doesn't exist in other places. It is something that, like, just like anything else, you want to put your money in and leave it. I think the biggest thing that people that are new to the space need to know is that, yes, these things can grow and increase in profit over time, but it's the likelihood of it popping off and just like turning into $1 million overnight is like pretty unrealistic. So tailor those expectations, go into it by diversifying your portfolio across the things that you could trust and the things that you want to take a little bit of risk on. Do your research and come up with a strategy that works for you, and make it part of like your overall plan. Don't put 90%, like, unless you feel like doing the risky thing. I wouldn't personally put 90% of my money in crypto. But I also have the benefit of having started investing, years ago, and put money into different places. And now I can take some risk on some of these other things and feel okay about doing that, even though, yes, I do want to retire in the next 5 years.
We were just a little bit crazy over here. So no, again, that's why none of this is financial advice.
That's right.
We go bigger, or we go big, and we go get a big home. And so
I just talk about what I do. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's very true. We don't recommend anyone to put all their life savings. We just have a really cool concept in our business where we're able to figure things out, try things out, and it's not attachment to our own, income, because instead of paying us paying ourselves in our business, let's just invest that amount and continue to strive and thrive, since we already have other avenues that keep us afloat. So it's helped me understand how to detach myself away from my own personal money, of how to invest. Where the weirdness of where the account is and isn't. All right, well, it was an investment. We tried it out. Let's try it, because money could come in again. It's like a tree. It grows on trees if you plant it like a tree. And we'll try out if we took an L or a learning lesson last month, let's see how we can diversify our approach the next month. And so I'm going into 2022. Today is actually our company's celebration of this year. So tonight we're having a little dinner, a little celebration, and telling our fun friends, our core believers, what the next year looks like and the plan that we have. And right now, I just did our company audit. We currently have around 30 altcoins that we personally are invested in. And so I'm like, all right, so if it took us to get around, if we started this conversation in March, and and since March, we've been able to get 30 plus cryptos, what is the goal next year? And what is our approach? And so now the approach that I'm looking for, is each month, I invest in 5 different metaverse, cryptocurrencies. The next month, we're looking for metaverse lands. The next month, we're looking for ones in the medical field. And then the next month, and so on and so on and so on. So I've been really excited.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure, like, in a few years, you're going to be like, hey, Laura, I told you so. Because, like, honestly, I'm sure some of those are going to just pop off and start to really grow and get adopted. And, like, at the ground floor, you never know which ones, but I can really appreciate where you're coming from, because you see that there's a ton of opportunity out there. We're talking about the gold rush in the Wild West. You don't know where that gold vein is going to be. And so, I mean, the strategy that you have different than mine, but still sounds really solid. And as long as, your risk tolerance is where it's at, I have nothing but positive things to say about anyone who wants to try to do that. It's great.
Yeah, it's what you see, or what like for the approach that we're looking for, what we want to change in that industry. When the world of medical, we want more transparency. So let's find a medical cryptocurrency that they're using the blockchain as an avenue where people can have more control of their medical data. And so that's one thing I'm learning. How can we make things transactional, but also really more transparent, because it just makes it more exciting. Like XRP, the banking system, it's going to help really change the banking system, because again, not many people trust banks. Not many people trust no one know really, people, we don't know where their money is going. But if we're able to attach many questions to the blockchain, and people are able to see what's happening behind the scenes with that organization, and really seeing the transactions that are happening, where their money's going or their investment, I think people are going to be really excited what blockchain is going to do and change for emerging markets, but also a lot of the questions that they would have. I say that because we've had so many things happen in the political sector, in the world of politics and voting, voter corruption, suppression, the whole kit and caboodle. And so if we were to have a transparent way where the blockchain was, where we can actually see the votes come in and there's no alteration of the polls and stuff like that, I would love to see how the blockchain can help the political sector, in us, with our democracy, of actually having real votes going to real candidates without having the questions of voter suppression that we've continuously have had since the creation, literally, of this country.
Yeah. An error-free voting system would be fantastic.
Because we definitely don't have it.
It's possible with blockchain. That's I think one of the things that again, people that don't necessarily get into the weeds on the technology side of it don't necessarily understand, is that the core of the ledger system is that it doesn't trust any single transaction. It compares it across the network and then makes a decision. And it by doing that, it has no errors. And you can have, I was part of a startup weekend in 2018, and it was a good time. And at the end of it, I was one of the judges, and out of that, one of the groups had presented on doing an accounting software that was blockchain based, and I was like, this is incredible. This is 2018. This looks like the kind of thing that's going to be coming out in the next 5 to 10 years. And some other group won, and I approached them after that, and I was like, yeah, their idea was fine, but you guys are the actual future here. This is where technology is going. And I would certainly encourage you to keep following this thread, because there are opportunities down the line for this.
Very true. And that's why I'm excited, because people want transparency and authenticity with all the different ways they've seen it and not have seen it in a lot of the approaches. Banking, the whole kit and caboodle. We all know the statistics where when you're a minority and you want to go for a loan, sometimes the loans you won't get. And then we've seen the statistics that come out when, where insurance companies rise the value of their insurance packages to those who live in high crime areas. And so I've seen it when me living in a nice area to coming to purchase in the area that I now live in, and seeing that my car insurance is now $2,000 in 3 months. That doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? I was just paying $900 over here in St. Louis Park. Well, then I had to do my due diligence and understanding they charge people differently upon your zip code. And then I would love a more transparent system where people can literally save some money by switching to whatever for 15 minutes and actually save money and see that, it's a transparent system as a whole rather than not. So what can people find you to stay connected with your organization? Go right ahead.
Sure. So I'm not really into social media these days. I used to be on a lot of different channels, and then sort of said, there's a lot of noise out there. We're just going to dial it back. So I do have a YouTube channel. I can give you the link to that after. But laurabenjamin.com is sort of my main website. I just haven't updated it a whole lot these days. I've been busy doing the consulting work and managing my other company, and I just sort of find time around the edges to get other things in there, like doing crypto investing.
Cool. Well, perfect. Well, I want to thank you for being our guest today. I hope you have a great rest of the 2021. What are some of your goals in 2022?
Oh gosh, 2022. My goals are to keep it what I'm doing with my coaching and consulting side. To really take a step back out of the web company that I own, and let my GM sort of take the wheel on that. He's been working towards that for the last year, and ultimately get down to about 2.5 days a week working, so I can take some time to just enjoy life and sort of hopefully cruise into the finish line here. We'll see how that goes. How about you?
In the next 2022, making some big jumps, leaving Minnesota to go out to LA to continue to do what we're doing online, but also just change the environment and continue to jump into cryptos. I'm really excited. Next month, it's going to be a very fun month, and so I'm doing a couple of strategies where I really want to show people how to find these really low market cap cryptocurrencies, the 100x to 1000x, and finding market caps that are under 100,000, under a million, and right in the way to the potential that they potentially can have. So
That's some exciting stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so just continue to dive more into cryptos and be a connector for people.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Denarius.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you in BNI.
See you soon.